Remember when we thought that as technology advances, the most vulnerable sectors would be labor and physical tasks? Well, the reality seems more surprising. AI isn't coming for manual labor. Instead, it's coming for cognitive tasks. And honestly, we should have seen this coming considering how scalable AI is, as long as it's constrained within a computer connected to a network like the internet or the intranet, which basically means a network that exists within an organization and contains all the files that an organization needs. So since the release of ChatGPT in 2022, the expectation has shifted, and a lot of people, including myself, seem to believe that if AI can do a task, it will end up replacing the humans doing that task. Turns out it's actually not that simple. That is where this paper comes in. This is an economic research done by Anthropic, and the paper was released last month in March, link below if you want to read it. It discovered some insights about the impact of AI on the labor market, like the title of this video suggests, which I'd like to share with you because it definitely wasn't something I expected. Number one, AI's capability isn't the problem. So, as I mentioned earlier, we think that cognitive tasks and decision-making tasks like software engineering, medical diagnosis, and investment decisions may be replaced by AI. But here's the thing. Between capability and implementation, there are actually a lot of different considerations that most people tend to miss, and for good reason. We both know how good AI is getting, whether that's SAT scores or other standardized examinations and tests. And in 2026, the trend that I'm starting to see is that AI is specializing. So there's some AI tools that are better at performing certain tasks like research or writing compared to other AI tools. So capability isn't the issue here. The real issue is feasibility. Think about self-driving cars. We both know the technology exists, but would you trust it with your life? For me, the answer is no, and that's the same with AI. Yes, you can get AI to perform medical diagnosis or judgments during a trial, but are people comfortable leaving literally life and death decisions up to a synthetic intelligence with no feelings? What if it prescribes the wrong medicine, comes up with the wrong diagnosis, reads a traffic signal incorrectly, or makes a bad investment decision? These are risks that we are not ready to take, which is why AI implementation bottlenecks. The blue portion shows the AI's capability, and the red portion shows the extent to which it's being used right now, based on Claude data. It's clear that AI is not being implemented at the scale we expected it to. Number two, unemployment rates is not what's affected. Even though AI is getting better and seeing large-scale implementation, there's still no correlation between AI use and unemployment rates. Instead, this research suggested that the effects might manifest in the form of changing hiring practices. As companies look to automate more of their processes, something I'll get to soon, they seem to be hiring less fresh graduates, which means more people being unable to find a job. It's a scary reality we might live in. The paper does admit that the evidence on this isn't concrete yet, and more data is needed to come to a conclusion, which brings me to my next point: the levels of automation. This same research suggested a new method of measuring AI deployment in the labor market. This article calls it observed exposure, and that is how much of a job's tasks are currently being done by AI in real-world work settings, adjusted for how automated those users are. I know that sounds confusing. Let's break this down. It's not exactly precise or measurable to say that job X is replaceable by AI. A job is like an umbrella of tasks, some of which can be automated by AI, others which require a human in the loop to double check, and some that are completely performed by humans. So there are actually a few components to this. First is theoretical feasibility, which I just talked about. To what extent can AI perform the task? Second is actual usage. Is AI actually being used in tasks right now? Third is the automation weight. To what extent is the AI being used right now, or how is the AI being used right now? And finally is the task weight, which is how much time does this task take up compared to the entire job role? Is it something that the worker spends a lot of time on, or is it just one of the many small things that a worker has to do? The research aims for this formula to be used as a metric for future research as AI deployment grows. Now, what does other research have to say about the economic impact of AI? Just to have a comparison. Now, like I mentioned earlier, a job is made up of a series of tasks, and some of these tasks can be automated by AI. But just because these tasks are being substituted by AI doesn't mean that there's a reduced demand for human labor at the occupation level. Efforts can just be reallocated to other tasks that are more human or require manual work, creating a productivity spillover and increasing efficiency. But it's also possible that for very narrow job roles, like say data entry, there may be a cut in headcount. Theoretically, it's also possible that as AI helps a company grow, it creates more jobs, so employment rises instead of falling. Then we have this study from Yale, which explores a wider horizon with a more macro lens compared to the anthropic research we saw earlier. The issue raised is that Anthropic's research only looks at certain job roles based on Claude data, which would differ if we were to use ChatGPT data or Gemini data. It also claims that since ChatGPT's release in 2022, there haven't been any major changes to the labor market like all of us fear. I feel it's still early to say. It's only been 3 years coming to 4. It will take time for AI to enter the mainstream workforce like the computer did. If you'd like to read more about this topic, a great book I can recommend is Yuval Noah Harari's Nexus. Next, we have this research that completely predates the current ChatGPT era we live in and study the impacts of AI on the labor market from 2010 to 2018. Keep in mind, AI doesn't just refer to LLMs like ChatGPT, it's way more vast than most people can imagine. So what this paper found is that AI doesn't have an impact on hiring or firing practices. Instead, it creates a restructuring within the industry, moving from routine cognitive tasks to tasks that build, deploy, and work with AI. The skills are just changing shape. Even though non-AI vacancies are decreasing, there's nothing detectable at the labor market level, at least in the US, the center of this innovation. For the time being, we expect this pattern to continue in this current generative AI era. What about freelancers? The difference between a salaried employee and a freelancer is that an organization has to go through a lot of decision making for a salaried employee, whereas for a freelancer the friction is a lot lesser since they work on a one-time job and payment basis. Well, this research suggests that freelancers, especially those at the top of their game, are the most affected by AI. That's because high quality copywriting and designing is now a lot more accessible with generative AI. It's scary to think about this, but the saying that just be really good at your job and AI won't be able to replace you no longer holds true. So that leads us to one big question. Is what we are seeing in the freelancing field a preview for what's to come for full-time employment? We are now living in a world where AI has raised the floor for the quality of services that you can get for free, which is why people are less willing to pay a human for the same job. The one question that none of these papers answer is that which outcome are we going to see play out? And honestly, nobody knows the answer. The data is too young. The technology is too new and the labor market is too slow to adapt. If history has taught us anything, it's that it's not as simple as new intelligent technology means widespread replacement. There are a lot more factors at play here, but the important thing is to not let hype or panic do the thinking for you.